So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nora Kranicki. I am the interim director of the Prison Creative Arts Project, and I'm very happy to welcome you all to our final public tour of the 25th annual exhibition of art by Michigan prisoners. Typically, of course, we would have tours physically in the gallery, which isn't possible this year. But as Robin was just saying, it's been so gratifying to be able to connect widely in this remote fashion. So our agenda for today, first I will share my screen and do a brief orientation of the digital exhibition. We are lucky to be joined by two wonderful curators this afternoon. Janie Paul, our senior curator, is here, as well as Martine Vargas, an artist and one of our curators as well. So after the orientation to the site, I will turn things over to Janie and Martine, who will each speak about two pieces that they'd like to highlight and tell you more about. And I'll also share the images of those so that we can all look at the pieces together as they speak. Then we will have plenty of time for questions, conversation. We can look at other pieces together if there are other pieces that Janie and Martine want to highlight. But all in all, we should have a good amount of time to connect and talk about the show. So I will share my screen and take us all to the digital exhibition. So here you are all looking at the homepage of PCAP's first ever digital exhibition. It sounds like some of you are familiar with the site already and others are not, but this is what you'll see when you land on the homepage. If you scroll down on our homepage, one of our wonderful curators, Charlie Michaels, helped to create this collage of art images from this year's exhibition. He drew on a wide range of pieces, including, 3D pieces, landscapes, figurative, abstract. And what we hope is that when you land on the homepage of the show, you get a little bit of that exciting feeling when you walk into a gallery and see a wall of diverse art in front of you. I especially love how Charlie included these pieces here at the top of the collage that, figures who really are looking right at you, confronting you, I think welcoming you to come and explore the show. Um, so again, even though certainly the experience of walking into the gallery is not there, um, the way that Charlie helped design the homepage, I think really helps us mimic that welcoming, exciting moment. So as you look through the site, you'll see a page called About, which will tell you more about the annual exhibition. And Janie will also talk more about the history and the curating of the exhibition in a moment. But especially for you or any friends or community members who are not familiar with PCAP or the history of the annual exhibition, you might enjoy reading through the history here and seeing some images of past exhibitions, images of events to give you a sense of where the show comes from and how we build it. The next tab that you'll see, or the next page you'll see, called Artwork, is really the star of the show. This is where you will find a series of gallery pages that are organized by theme to help guide you through the show, to help you think through some of the most prominent themes, topics, ideas that we see coming out of the whole body of work that is in the show. So as you click on each gallery page, you'll see some brief text at the top that gives you some context about that theme. And then as you scroll down, you will see a gallery of images of artworks in the show. You can click on each individual image, which will take you to a page about that artwork itself. You'll see the image of the piece. And as you scroll down, you'll see more information, including the artist's name, the log number of the piece, which will be important if it's a piece that you'd like to purchase. You'll see a link to that artist statement. You'll also see the sale status, whether or not that piece is still for sale. This one has sold. The price, so the subjects that are in the piece, format or size. The format is all in inches, medium, and the prison where it was created. I'm going to scroll back up here to artist statement. Being able to include the artist statements and connect them to each piece has been a really exciting addition in our digital exhibition. Typically in the gallery, we just don't have the space to present each artist statement alongside their work, but we're able to do that in the digital format. So if you click on the artist statement for a piece, it will bring up the text of that statement, which you can read and really spend a moment hearing the artist's voice. Artists often write about their inspiration for the piece they've submitted, their experience with PCAP, their growth as an artist over time, their communities. So it's really a wonderful way to really immerse yourself in the PCAP artist community. So again, I would encourage everyone to spend some time browsing through our various gallery pages. Like Robin mentioned at the start, you can spend some time with works by first-time artists, which I think is actually our largest gallery page. We have many first-time artists. You can take a look at three-dimensional works, works by women artists, landscapes. So it's really a way to get a really full sense of the breadth of the work in the show. The next page, as you're looking at the menu here, is Browse All. This page will take you to a comprehensive listing of all the pieces in the show. Here they are not organized by theme or by medium, and you're able to scroll through and see small images of each piece. And then when you click on that image, it will take you to a page with more information. A new feature of the site as of this morning is this page called Browse Art Available for Sale. So as the name would suggest, when you click on that tab, it's going to bring up all of the pieces that are still for sale. And again, as you click through, you can go to an individual piece and see its information. At this point, I believe we've sold 250 pieces over the last week, which is wonderful. But that means that there are about 500 pieces still for sale, and you're able to easily see them all here. There's a few other features I'll highlight on the Engage page. You can interact with several different ways, to reach the artist, to connect with them. You can listen to our audio tour, which was created with the physical gallery in mind, but still very much speaks to the digital show as well. You can sign the guest book, which I would highly, highly encourage everyone to leave a message in our digital guest book, either for a particular artist that you enjoy or for the entire artistic community. On last Saturday's tour, we were joined by Brian Picken, a PCAP artist and now curator, who spoke really eloquently about how meaningful it is for artists inside to receive the comments in the guest book. So I hope you'll all consider leaving a comment. This page called Artist Voices highlights those artist statements that I spoke about a moment ago. Here we have similar to our gallery pages, some pages that showcase some of the themes that we hear in the artist statements. This page highlights several statements that really speak about community, connection. We also have statements from first-time artists, statements from women artists, and probably our most common theme or the most common message we hear in the statements is about the transformative power of art. So I'd really encourage you to linger over this page and read the artists' voices. Our events page, you are all likely familiar with since you are here at one of our events, but you can see here other events that are coming up and register for upcoming events. At this point, we just have one more, but it's one of the highlights. Tomorrow evening, we'll have our artist panel featuring 4 PCAP artists. The final thing that I'll highlight in my orientation here is the purchase art page. If you find a piece that really speaks to you that you'd like to purchase, please visit this page where you will see a form that you can fill out to make an appointment to talk to a PCAP cashier. Once you make that appointment, the form will prompt you to leave your contact information, including your phone number, and the PCAP cashier will call you at your appointed time to process your purchase over the phone. When you speak to your PCAP cashier, it'll be important to know the log number of the piece that you would like to purchase. And that can be found on each piece's individual page. And if there are any questions about the purchase process or the log number, I can certainly answer those questions later in the tour. So with that, I'll turn things over to our senior curator, Jamie Paul, who will give some background about the show and how we assemble it. And then we'll turn to the 2 pieces that Jamie would like to tell you more about this afternoon.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. So this show started in 1996, and it is part of the Prison Creative Arts Project, which was founded in 1990 by Buzz Alexander. He was a professor at the University of Michigan, a professor of literature, and he started going into prisons almost accidentally when some of his students in one of his classes encouraged him to come into a women's facility where they were doing work. And he very quickly got very involved and loved doing the theater workshop there, and came to realize that he wanted to work in prisons because he wanted to connect students at the university with people inside, and that the whole issue of incarceration and mass incarceration in our country is extremely important, and we need to do something about it. I joined him in 1995, and we were both teaching and bringing our students into prisons. I'm a visual artist. And very quickly, we had the idea that to do an exhibition, but we had no idea. We didn't really know how important art was in the prisons. We didn't know that it was happening all around the country, that in every prison, people are making art as a way to survive and retain one's soul, basically. So when we first went around to the prisons, we just went to 16 of them in Lower Michigan, and we had 77 works by 50 artists, and we now have, I think it's 821 works by over 500 or 600 artists. So that alone just tells you how much the exhibit has grown. It's grown so much that it pervades the entire prison system in Michigan, and more artists are making great work. Our goals for the exhibition are threefold. We decided right in the beginning. One is to support and validate the artists in their personal and their artistic growth. And second is to create a community with people from the inside and people from the outside. And third is to enable people who see the art to feel inspired and to see the humanity of people who are locked up in our prisons. And we see that as a first step in ending mass incarceration, to humanize the people who are inside. And I think there's no better way to do that than through art. So we quickly designed the various ways in which we connect with the artists over time so that they have a continuing connection with us year round. We make a video of each work in the show that goes out to all the prisons. The guest book is supremely important, as Nora mentioned. So we do whatever we can to keep our connection. And the fact that we've been doing this now for so long, 26 years, is very important because it's become embedded in the lives of people who are there particularly for a very long time. And it becomes something that can accompany them into their future. So the way we select and curate the art is that we go to all prisons in Michigan, Upper and Lower Peninsula. We have 8 curators right now, and we split up into small groups to go to all the places, the prisons. And these selection visits are perhaps the real heart of the project. It's when we meet artists, we get to know them. And as I mentioned, some really long-term people, there's some people we've been seeing or I've been seeing anyway, for 25 years. So we get to know people really well. And that's where we exchange feedback and talk. And so the project is an educational project as well as an exhibition project. And I think this was what makes this exhibition different from most, is that it's very equally about supporting the artist's growth as it is about bringing the work into the world. So, okay, I will conclude with that. I do want to reiterate that I really want to make sure to leave time for questions, because I know we just sketched things out, and I'm sure you'll all have questions for both of us. So I can talk about the work. I chose a couple of pieces that are quite different from each other, partly to show the range, but also to show the different kinds of visions that artists have and needs that they have. I do think about the art as embodying unmet needs and for each artist. And this one, which is called Arrested Development, I think there's a play on the words here. I'll get to that later. But the first thing I notice about this piece is how the artist has brought us into this space, this sort of intimate space where the two men are relaxing and playing chess, because the man facing us is looking directly at us. And he has managed to compose the picture so that we are actually in this little sphere with them. We can imagine that we're actually standing kind of almost at the table. We've walked up to them, and the guy who's looking at us has I think, a very poignant expression on his face. It's almost like we're in conversation. I am in conversation with this guy, and he has sort of stopped midway between, his right hand is just, in that gesture of he's about to pick up something, or he's just picked up a piece, and he's looking out, and we're having a conversation because he's reacting to me, and who knows what he's saying. But it doesn't really matter. The important thing is that we're right in the space there. And the other man is looking at him, maybe saying, come on, let's go, or whatever. The artist is communicating a lot here about what's important in the moment and what's important in the future, because I don't know if you can see the details or if we can blow it up, but the books next to the man with the blue hat, one of them is about investing strategies, and then the two other ones are about religion. So it tells you that he has faith, and his faith is important to him in his present life. And he's also learning about the stock market to see how he can better his life in the future. And while we're here, it's just, well, it's okay.
I can go back to
So
it.
it's just going to notice the hands, which I think, communicate that momentary feeling of, having just put something down or pick something up. So this, we can go back to the full view. The striking thing is this real moment in time where we're actually on the, in the yard, and you can see other tables, and encircling that area of the yard is the track, the running and walking track. There's nobody on it right now. So you get a sense of what people are doing. And I think this is when I said the art can satisfy a need, perhaps this artist really needed and wanted to show people this kind of moment that exists in prison life. And I think compositionally, it's really striking, very successful, because the top is kind of feels cut off. So again, it makes us feel like we're right there. And there's this curve of the grass, and then the table, the angle of the table is kind of tipped up towards us so that we really see everything that's on the table. And it makes it clear that the artist wanted us to see everything that's on the table. The other guy, his book is a popular novel. I looked it up, actually. It's a kind of a series. It's an entertaining series, and his drink. So it just shows you something about their lives. And I think the title, Arrested Development, could be a play on having been arrested, but also saying, despite that they're trying to grow through these, and they're living, but their development, because the situation makes for an arrested kind of development, a kind of stasis. And so they're doing what they can. So that's I'd love to hear other people if they have thoughts afterwards. And then the next one that I wanted to talk about is by a first-time artist, and it's called The Scientist. And it's almost the opposite because from the one we just talked about, because when you first look at it, it looks like this beautiful piece of abstract art. And then you start looking at it, and it looks kind of like you think, oh, is that the globe? But then you realize, well, it's not the globe, because it doesn't look anything like our globe. And then you see the corner, the figure in the lower left, which is, I think, a cyborg or some kind of other being looking through some kind of telescope-like object. And so you're aware that this is a fantasy. And what I love about it is the care that the artist took in making every detail. First of all, it's beautifully composed. There's sort of a big area of orange and a big area of blue, and different shades of blue. And then the yellow works really, and the pink works really well. And the two overlapping circles work really well together. And then as you look at it, you can see just tiny details of things that we don't even know what they are. We don't know what all these coordinates mean. It says twinkle, twinkle. But it looks like it has the feel of a slightly antique kind of map with the way he's done the border. And I love on the top left where that kind of circular form juts into the border, and on the top right, all around it juts into the border. So that's a really nice compositional technique. But and it's when I say it's like the opposite of the other one, that one just confronts us with the reality of this is prison life. This is who I am. This is where we are. And this is like we're going into the mind of an artist and thinking, wow, this artist created this whole vocabulary and sort of syntax and geometric system and all of this that has meaning, and it shows how inventive and how sustaining it is. If you imagine somebody working on that over many, many hours, um, his imagination can be. So that's all I'm going to say, so I can give Martin time and we can have time for questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janie. And um, just to mention one other feature of the digital show that I love is the ability to zoom in on these really high resolution images of the pieces, which, provides a kind of intimacy and close looking that just wouldn't even be possible in the gallery. But this piece is, I don't know, it's really particularly powerful to zoom in on and just see the incredible intricate detail that the artist included. So I'm grateful you highlighted this one. Martine, would you like to start with emotional reflection?
Sure, yes. For those of you who don't know, I'd like to introduce myself, and my name is Martin Vargas, and I am an ex-convict. Putting it bluntly, that's the way I like to refer to myself, as an ex-convict, because that's what I was. I did a lot of time in there, and I am glad to see that Janie has used her 26 years of experience with the prison system very well. She can tell you all about the yard and the running track and the walking track and the picnic tables, and that is a very, very intimate view of inside the prison. And I do want to say also that one of the first things that artists turn to when we receive the annual package sent in every year by PCAP is the guest book. The guest book is just the first thing that every artist inside looks at when we get a packet full of materials. And the packet is about a half an inch thick. But the guest book is the first thing that everyone goes to because they want to see who commented on the work, what was said. And it is such an intimate feeling when you read somebody's words about a piece that you created and showed at this exhibit. So I encourage all of you to fill out the guest book, as Nora said, and as many artists as you can, reach out to them, because there are so many people that turn to that guest book and their names aren't in there. That's kind of a disappointment, but it's understandable, I guess. But anyway, about this particular piece, the artist is a woman inside the women's facility, obviously. Her name is Kayla Kuhn. And it is a very simple pen and ink drawing of an emotional reflection in women's art. And I chose two pieces by women because I feel that women are very underrepresented in the art world, both inside and out here. But in fact, hers is very simple, very raw, and just straightforward. And it's on inexpensive lined paper, probably from a legal pad. And there's nothing hidden there and nothing held back. The pain is represented. Again, this is emotional reflection that artists go through inside. And she put it very plainly and simple. The pain is represented in the eye, in the tear in her eye, obviously, and the shards of broken glass strewn all around her. That's a lot of pain in there. The anger is represented by fury, passion, And I believe we can all understand that in some form or another. Becoming angry at so many things can inspire that fury passion in us, and we just say or do things that we probably shouldn't say or do. And the next piece is confusion, which is very well represented, I think, by not just the big center rabbit hole that depicts uh, going into and trying to work through and work your way out, but also by all the other rabbit holes that surround that one. It's a minefield of rabbit holes, and that to me implies so much confusion in this artist's mind and eye, and of course hurt, which is similar to pain, of course, but her hurt is just in her heart. There's nothing else, no physical pain other than in her heart. So you can sort of tell that, this artist is very, very raw, very, very real, very simple and straightforward. And I like that about this artist's representation of the emotions that she brought out. The other one, if you can turn, yes. This one is also, it's a very not so detailed, well, some people would say not so detailed representation of a face. And this one is a self-portrait by Roxy, another female prisoner. And she seems to have also, she's also speaking about emotional pain. She's speaking about the pain that her life experiences has brought her. And many artists, I chose this one especially because many artists feel that to paint a portrait, you have to show a very nice face, almost like a yearbook style face or something like that, very simple. And she chose to represent herself with this face, tearing it all apart, tearing the front of her face away from the skull, and then the skull away from the inner workings of the head. So she has dissected herself into all these different parts and has these look like wires that you would plug into something, not unlike robots that we've seen. But to me, that implies a sense of being programmed. She has been plugged into whatever the system, a way of life that she was supposed to lead in order to be the perfect person, or the perfect child, the perfect woman, whatever. But it's like a pre-programmed impression of what she was supposed to be. But instead, it looks like she turned to addiction of some sort or another. Drugs are mentioned there in the center lower part of
Yeah, can we blow it up?
painting.
Yeah, great.
There's an RX bottle, which implies pills, of course, and above that, it could be alcohol, or it could be cigarettes. There's so much going on inside her head. And this is her self-portrait. She created that. So it doesn't show what others see when they look at her. She says in her statement, and I quote, "I create art to show people what I feel on the inside. Nobody really knows how I truly feel." So to me, that says, she's feeling really messed up by her past, whatever demons, ghosts have been in her past life. That's her real self right there, and she's showing us. So there's a lot of reflecting going on in this painting, as is the case in many women artists. Frida Kahlo is a perfect example of this. And that's what this, sort of reminded me of, a modern version in pencil of Frida Kahlo. In Roxy's case, it could be that everyone that sees her physical, self, but they never take the time to actually look in her eyes the pain that may exist there, the past that she has lived, and they never bother with that. They just look at, you know, her face and her physical self. So she's looked beyond that face. She's peeled it away from the skull, like I said, and the struggles that she's had to deal with in her life. And she has presented us with her real self, her self-portrait. And if you notice, though, the breath that she is either inhaling or exhaling is in color. And to me, that is so beautiful. That is so beautiful, because in her life, despite the past trauma, tragedy, addiction, whatever she may have suffered through, she still breathes in color, and she still, you know, has life in her. And that is what, to me, artists do. They represent feelings, emotions, self in ways that not very many people can do. And to me, this is just a very exceptional work of art. And it may not be, you know, aesthetically pleasing, like a lot of the, and it may not even be as technically pleasing as a lot of the male artists have shown in this exhibit. But to me, that's very, very real, very raw art. And I believe that we should all take that into consideration when looking at a lot of the women's art that is shown in this exhibit. Not very many people look at them as pieces of art because they may be crude, they may be, you know, it's not refined. It's an inexpensive paper and only with a pencil maybe, but they tell a lot more about the self than a lot of the male artists present. And I guess that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you so much, Martine. And what a wonderfully, diverse set of works for us to look closely at together. We have plenty of time now for some questions and conversation, either about the show, the pieces we looked at, any aspect of the exhibition. So I'll open it up for questions.
Or comments.
Mm-hmm.
I think somebody's talking, but they're muted.
Yeah, I got that. I wanted to know, in the past, I've purchased some pieces and I think you would sort of, you never knew for sure if you were going to get the ones you wanted. With your cashier or whatever you called the person, again, I was thinking I would choose several just in case.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have any reserve a piece until it's sold, it's not gone.
That's right. Yeah. So there's no ability to reserve a piece. The moment you speak to your cashier, that will make it sold to you. The site is updated every day to reflect the purchases that happened the day before. So that'll be updated on the site as well.
Is this going to be available after the 31st? How long will this whole setup be available after the 31st?
So it will remain available to view online in perpetuity. That's a long time, but we don't plan to take it down. Sales will close, like you said, a week from today, but the show will remain available to see online. So we very much hope, even after sales have finished, that you'll continue to share the show with your friends, continue to view it. I know that'll be really gratifying to the artists.
Super. Are you planning an auction event?
So we typically have an auction at the in December at the end of the fall semester that serves as a fundraiser for the annual exhibition. We weren't able to hold it this past year because of all of the prohibitions against events. But I'm cautiously optimistic we could hold that event this coming year. So stay tuned. But it's my hope.
And I heard something about a mini exhibition. Is that coming up
Yeah,
soon?
that's a miniature. We're calling it our miniature show because we couldn't go into the prisons. We had to devise something a way that the artists could send us work. So it's a miniature show of pieces that are all 4 by 6 inches at most that can fit into an envelope, or there's some 3D pieces that are small that have been packaged and sent in. And we've just finished or finishing curating that show, and that'll be up, I think, this summer, correct, Nora?
Yeah.
All right.
Because the work that you're seeing in this show was actually collected for last year. That's why it's confusing that I said this is the 26th year, but it's the 25th show because it's the work that was collected for what would have been the 25th physical exhibition.
Yeah.
So the 26th project is really the miniature show.
Right. Right.
So we're all, waiting to see what's going to happen next year. We have to plan sort of 2 scenarios because we don't know.
And things change so quickly these days. I just don't know what to expect. So we will
But
see.
the miniature is going to be virtual.
It will be. It'll look very similar to this virtual exhibition.
Yay.
Yes.
So this has really shown us the value of this, that being able to reach people all over the country and the world, and people like you who haven't been able to come to the exhibition, it's so valuable.
Mm-hmm.
I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed, because I haven't had a chance yet to look at all the art, but have you noticed any differences because of the pandemic this last year? I mean, you've been doing this now for 20 plus years. So I'm sure there are times when you notice something somehow that connects or that has a thematic kind of overlap to it. So I'm curious if you saw that this year.
I don't think so. I mean, we didn't get pieces about COVID because we collected this work before the COVID crisis.
Maybe next year you'll see some stuff.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Otherwise, Martin, don't you think it's about,
There are consistent themes in a lot of prisoner artists' creations. A lot of it deals with time. So you'll see clocks, you'll see calendars of various sorts. You'll see reminiscences of what they may have had. But that's constant. That's a constant.
Mhm.
If you were in, Venice or something, you'd see a lot of paintings with canals and boats and stuff. But I guess it depicts the environment. But actually, there are several pieces in the miniature exhibit that deal with COVID.
yeah, that's where
And they
you'll
are
see.
very good pieces too. They might be small, but they're very, very powerful and very good.
Yeah.
I would say one other change we've seen this past year is not so much about the content of the work, but the amount of work people are able to create, both the submissions for the miniatures show and submissions of creative writing that we've received for the PCAP literary review. The number of submissions have just been lower than in years past, which could be due to a lot of reasons, perhaps people's ability to access materials, the conditions inside right now. But I also suspect that emotionally, it's very, very difficult to be creatively productive for many folks who are facing really dire conditions inside.
Yeah, and as you say, the physical constraints are more so right now.
Mhm.
A lot of people are really confined.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I got a letter from a couple of the guys inside, and they're starting to open up the prisons a lot more now than it used to be for the past year, where you could only have a half an hour or so of yard time a day. Now they're starting to have an hour 3 times a day in some prisons. They're also starting visitation on the 28th, I believe, this coming week. So, of course, with restrictions, understandably, but they are starting to open up a little bit. And yes, it's been very, very difficult for the artists inside to obtain materials, to share with each other, to be inspired, to create artwork. It's been a very depressing time inside there, a lot more than it's been depressing for a lot of people out here.
Yeah.
So
And also-
there is,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
go ahead, that's fine.
No, some people actually are sick. I mean, have had COVID. So,
Yes,
I mean, quite a
so
few.
many.
So that's another reason.
Mhm.
It's been a terrible situation in the prisons. For the most
But
part.
it has been, but PCAP has just rose up to the challenge. And, I mean, with the miniatures exhibit, for example, it gave the artists inside a means of contributing art, though smaller, much smaller, but it gave them a means to create art as they have been used to doing. And they are the reason that we can have a 26th annual art exhibit, not because of us, but because of them.
Yeah.
And we gave them notice, of, hey, what do you guys think? We're thinking about a miniature exhibit. Will you contribute? And we had how many pieces, Janie? Over 150, 175
Yeah.
or something? That's a lot of work. And a lot of people don't really realize that little bitty pieces like that are very instrumental in creating big pieces. If you can create a small hands, like the painting that Janie showed earlier, the hands, when you zeroed in on the hands and each individual chess piece and the books, if you take them separately, those are all miniatures. But when you can create something like that and put it in a composition that's bigger, I mean, you are very, very technically skilled.
Mhm.
And it was good to give these guys and ladies inside a chance to create art from a different perspective.
Yeah. Anything else?
I know we've had a
I
few.
wanted to say something that Robin mentioned earlier about being able to attend the exhibit, even though she probably couldn't, except for the fact that it's digital. And that is, I mean, I'm happy to hear that, and I'm happy to see you here, even though I don't know you. But I just wanted to say that I have shared the link with a lot of my neighbors here and people that I know out here, and they go to the exhibit and they tell me, wow, we didn't know that prisoners could create that kind of art.
Right.
Well, an artist is an artist regardless of where the artist is. I mean, there was a time when artists created work in caves, using dyes and plants. It doesn't matter where you are. It matters what you want to create in art.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting question. Are these artists who ran afoul of the law, or were they not artists till they had the circumstances they had?
Most of them actually, most people were not artists before they came into prison. Some, I've Martin talked to this too. I mean, I've met quite a few people who loved art, and they may have done it in their childhood, but then they went in the wrong direction and they just didn't follow it through, but they knew they were talented. But honestly, most people that I've talked to just picked it up because they saw that it was both a money-making proposition in prison, making cards and portraits and things, and because they needed to feed their spirit.
That's a very, very good question. And I agree with Janie. A lot of us weren't artists when we went in. But the irony in that, and it is a very big irony, is that when you're inside, you have all the time in the world to create art if that's what you're into. And then when you come home, the world gets in the way, reality, living gets in the way, and all of a sudden you cannot create like you used to create because of all the distractions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a strange situation. But what I love too is the fact that so many artists, so many people, ordinary people, this is like basically a group of thousands of just regular people. And that's such a huge percentage of them are making art. What does it say about humans in general? More of us could be making art, except for all the distractions. But the capacity for art making is really embedded in all of us. So I think it really says something about the importance of art in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
The potential importance.
Well, we're coming right up to 1 o'clock now, and that is just such a beautiful sentiment to end on.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to Martine and Janie for joining us this afternoon. Each of our public tours has featured different curators, different pieces, and we've recorded all of them, and we'll add the videos of the tours to the show site so that you can watch other tours that you weren't able to attend, hear other curators' voices, and see other pieces. Yes, thank you all for attending this afternoon, and have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you very much for your very good job, Nora.
Thank you, Ken. Good to see you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Great audience.
Yeah. Great having you here.
Mhm.